Hello, I'm Sunita Narain and I'm an environmentalist. I work at the Center for Science and Environment in Delhi. And I want to talk about the Conference of Party, COP, which is going to happen at Glasgow. Leaders from all over the world are going to go to Glasgow to discuss climate change. And the message that we have to them is that please understand the world has run out of time. The fact is we are seeing extreme weather events across the world. We are seeing wildfires. We are seeing extreme rain events. We are seeing floods. We are seeing droughts. And worst, these are disproportionately impacting the poorest in the world. The poor are the victims of climate change, and the poor have not contributed to the stock of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This is what the leaders of our world must understand. But it is an interdependent world. It is a world where world insecurity will rise as climate change impacts grow. So we need action. We need drastic action. And the time for weak, distractive, and some excuses, prevarication is over. So we would like to put forward for them what then is the agenda at Glasgow, at the Conference of Party. One, we would like the leaders, our leaders of the world, not to try and erase, dilute the idea of environmental justice. The fact is, for so long, climate negotiations have always worked over time to get rid of the very idea of the cumulative historical emissions, of the idea of how 70% of the world's people, including in India, do not have access to energy. They still need the right to development. That entire framing of the climate negotiations, where the rich must reduce, the poor have the right to grow, but that every country will grow differently because it will be enabled with technology and finance. But there are limits on all. This concept of equity, fairness, and climate justice must be the bedrock of the negotiations. And this is critical. Second, China must be in the spotlight. There is a long game that China has played, which is not evident because China has been a member of the G77, continues to be a member of the group of 77 countries. But the fact is, since 2004, when China joined the World Trade Organization, WTO, its emissions have skyrocketed. It is the powerhouse of the world. It is the country which is today the manufacturing powerhouse of the world. And therefore, its emissions are today 10 gigatons as compared to, say, even the United States, which is 5, or India, which is 2.6 gigatons in 2019. So the inequity is huge. And the fact is, China will occupy 33% of the available carbon budget between now and 2030. It is critical that China be held to account. In our view, China today is yesterday's United States. And this is why, once again, we would like to reiterate, we need an agreement which is based on fairness and fairness for all. Because if yesterday US was a problem and today China is a problem, tomorrow some other country will be a problem. Global rules have to be made so that they are fair for all. But China has to be in the spotlight. Third, the world must not waste time talking about net zero, about how we will cut emissions in 2050. Remember, the very concept of net zero is about emitting and then soaking up the emissions or taking the emissions and burying them underground under carbon capture and storage. We know that the world's sinks are not enough. And in fact, IPCC report tells us they are getting more and more less able to sequester carbon dioxide because of climate change itself. We can see that today. Wildfires across the world, forest destruction across the world. And it is therefore not good enough for us to say we will cut emissions in 2050 because there will be disruptive technologies by then. No, we need to front load our emission reductions today. Net zero is also an inequitable proposition. The fact is, IPCC said the world has to be net zero by 2050. Given the disproportionate, huge differences between the already developed and the developing emerging world, it is very clear that if the world has to be net zero in 2050, then the already industrialized have to be net zero in 2030. So let's move beyond net zero. Let's talk about 2030 and what the world will do to cut emissions now. Front loading the emissions is critical so that the carbon space is available and that we can get growth without jeopardizing the future of all. The fourth agenda is finance. Now, the finance issue is not just about the amount of money and the fact that this money is not charity, but really payment from the polluters to pay for the transformation in the emerging world. That's the finance, that's the climate finance principle. But it's not just about the quantum. It is also the ability to be able to measure it, to be able to account for it. And when I say this, I know you're going to say, but I'm sure countries are accounting for it. After all, these are OECD countries and they know how to account for their money. But no. In fact, there is a vast difference between what OECD puts out as its climate finance and what, say, a group like Oxfam has put out as real climate finance. And this is because there is no accurate way to measure what is climate finance. Countries are putting in every loan into climate finance. Money that they're spending on road building is climate finance. Money that they're financing through private sector for industrialization is also climate finance. So it is very clear we need to build trust between the rich and the poor. We need to build trust for a cooperative agreement. And for this, not only the quantum of finance, but the true measurement of finance is critical. The fifth agenda is the rule book, which is going to be discussed at COP, which is Rule 6, markets. Now, markets instrument is an instrument which is being developed to be able to pay buy carbon credits from the emerging world and to account for it in the balance sheet of the already rich world, using the markets to provide money and technology. It's a good idea, but the fact is we need markets for transformative action. When the Clean Development Mechanism was agreed upon under the Kyoto Protocol, CDM, it became the cheap, corrupt, convoluted mechanism because it was designed to capture the lowest, cheapest options. But today, the emerging world cannot sell its cheap options. It actually has to find ways to fund transformative action. This will be a win-win for the entire world. So the market has to be designed for public policy and purpose. The sixth agenda is loss and damage. Now we know that losses are mounting across the world. We know that there is horrendous impacts on the poorest of the world because of tropical cyclones, because of the intensification of weird weather events. It's breaking the backs of the poor. We know there are losses and there are damages. Now, this is where the world has to correct a wrong. In 2015, under the Paris Agreement, it was agreed that when the world discusses loss and damage, and it was only discussing loss and damage. It wasn't accounting for them. But even the discussions would never include the phrase compensation or liability. So polluters would never be asked to pay. This historical wrong has to be corrected. We have to bring loss and damage at the center of the discussions on climate change, and the losses have to be paid for, because only then will polluters actually put limits on their own growth, change the way that they do business. And of course, it will also provide an ability for the poorest to be able to cope with this. And this then gets connected to the issue of the adaptation goal. Now, adaptation again has become an empty word. It's become a word which is just full of committees and networking and all sorts of nice words, but there is no substance in it. There is no finance in it. There is no intention to be able to pay for adaptation costs. Why is this so important? Why is COP so important? The fact is, we live in an interdependent world. The fact is, climate change will make our entire world more insecure. We have to work together. We have to build a world which is inclusive for all. Because without that, we will not have a world at all. This is our intergenerational promise. This has to be a COP which delivers real change, real, not words.